Paul Dano is a really good actor. He could be one of this generation's best. He plays unhinged main characters and supporting characters incredibly well, but unfortunately he wasn't too well utilised in The Batman. I am Couch Coop and I have picked out 10 films that impressed me for 2022, and as you well know, I am the biggest pessimist with modern cinema. I feel the industry is as weak as it's ever been since it started, and the list is also ranked as well, so starting with The Batman is not technically a good thing because I am a hardcore Batman film fan. It was born for me with Tim Burton's classic, but I also agree with Nolan's vision and quite enjoyed that trilogy. I thought it was really good at establishing an incredible Gotham, and that's what this film carries over particularly well. It's one of the major pluses is that the sets, scenes, lighting and everyone involved in it really follows through with what Nolan spent so long building on. Bale could be potentially my favourite Batman, and that brings me on to Robert and his appearance in this new film. We all know the classic story. We've all looked at the nutrition diets of how Christian went from the machinist to the beast he was in the Batman films. His physical prowess was very important for the character, and that goes right back down to the roots of Batman's inception, is that he is not a superhero technically. He has no divine or special power. He is as normal as you and me, and that's why the character of Bruce Wayne needs to be a physical monster, because that's one of his pluses, is that his strength and martial arts are going to save his ass. Pattinson's effort in the build for his Batman character in this film was embarrassing. I'm no stranger to the gym, and I know how little a time it takes to get results, and he was in this role or had it build for a long time prior to filming, so that really let me down. Robert was doing really well in my books, coming off the back of The Lighthouse, showing that he was an actual actor but did not put the effort required in to pull off a frightening Batman, unfortunately. And that swings me back to Dano. He was underutilized and wasn't put in the front seat enough as the complete psycho he can be on camera. It was a bit of a waste of effort. Lenny Kravitz's daughter's on screen too much, and Colin Farrell's makeup is probably the winning thing of the whole film itself. Number 10 was The Batman. So Pearl rocks in at number 9, an almost autobiographical story of a country lass who's out in the swamp, crocodile-ridden Floridian countryside, I'm gonna say. It's Mia Goth, old Shia LaBeouf's missus, and she is quite distractingly beautiful, I'll give her that, but she's playing the detailed, quite complex psychopath who has a number of issues in quite a few directions. The film's quite difficult to keep ahead of with where it's going to take you, and it does have a very strong front end. I like its build and its character establishment. The farm's cool, the dynamics are really good with her and her parents and what's going on with her life.
I want to be special, dancing up on the screen like the pretty girls in the pictures.
The director, Ty West, has made 12 films and is 42 years old. Pearl doesn't really feel like an experience from a director that's got that amount of collateral behind them. It feels like it's made by a bunch of people. At some points in the film, you're dealing with quite a few subplots, and you're also not sure about how you're supposed to be feeling against the main character, whether they're a likable psychopath that you're secretly rooting for, or whether you're just in gobsmackery of their outlandish behaviour and not really wanting anything to do and really want to see them fail. The film doesn't gear you up for that, with having like an X Factor finale that doesn't really work out for the protagonist, and you're not sure where you stand when it comes to that quite graphic finale. It kind of makes up for itself with giving you what you were waiting for in that crazy final act. Number 7 is The Black Phone, and you've seen this film before. It's written by Stephen King's son. It's kind of got Stranger Things, the Goonie vibes. It's even got Put the Lotion in the Basket that stretches basically the whole way through the film. This is one big Put the Lotion in the Basket. It is Ethan Hawke though. The casting of that guy in that role was genius. He's just grabbed it so well. He's so creepy.
Would you like to see a magic trick?
It also, in line with a lot of his father's material, has this semi-supernatural vibe. They're always quite well grounded, the directions that they come from. There's no pseudo-religious, crazy woman nutter. You can just tell that I didn't realise he had written the material prior to watching it and then was told after, and I was like, it kind of all falls into place because it has got this deep quality to it.
Not since I was a kid.
But that's really just the writing. When we're talking about how it's shot and what it looks like, it is a Netflix special. It feels like a Stranger Things Netflix special on a production front. Daniel Faraday's quite good as the mean father. He replaces the normal Stephen King matriarch of evil. But it's not terrible, and it was a Netflix exclusive. It's beaten Batman in my eyes for quality of film to come out in 2022, and I was very much ready to be disappointed with it, but met with some really cool tense scenes, some supernatural awesomeness, and really a great tense finale with Ethan just looking so weird the whole way through it that's worth the ticket of admission alone.
There's a combination lock on the inside of the storm door.
What's the combination?
I think that production thing, or the way it looks and feels and sounds, might be a point towards the Blumhouse area. And of course, that film studio or production house is awesome. It's brought us some really cool stuff, and I want to see more of film like this get given exclusive rights to streaming services because there's more adventure to be had there. There's not as many restrictions, and people can just go ham with their scripts and effects. And this one is definitely a good start in that direction. The Ritual is another one, which I'll put a link in the description for.
Did you know that the very first assembly of photographs to create a motion picture was a 2-second clip of a black man on a horse?
Daniel Kaluuya, he's called. He's one of my favourite characters in Get Out, one of my favourite Jordan Peele films, but his whole demeanour in this Nope is so unbearable that I can barely rewatch it. I know I complained about it last time on the channel, but holy crap, it gets annoying. He's acting like he's not being paid and he's got to be there. That's how it appears to me, which totally isn't the case. The man got millions. They're all chummy, that lot, and they keep the same casting circles through all three of those films, us included. Here's something else that dawned on me a couple of weeks after watching it. It's got a subplot with a chimpanzee that pulls a lady's face off, and it's a horrific true story. Anyone with an ounce of sensitivity would leave that whole thing well alone because the individual's still alive, and it feels like it was woven in when you look at the plot in hindsight as just something to inject a bit of interest. It goes nowhere. It's got nothing to do with the creature or spaceship itself other than the eye contact vibe. So that one really dawned on me that it was a cheap, nasty bit of grotesque exploitation to try and save it from being quite a mundane sci-fi film. But it's made it on to a few of my lists, and I do deep down love his style. It's a really cool film, and it's great to see a modern, almost monster Jaws flick come out and totally smash it.
Hello.
Hi.
Mrs. Marlowe, yes?
So Alex Garland has his swing at folk horror and totally misses. No, that's mean. He came out with Annihilation, he came out with Next Machina, he wrote 28 Days Later. Sunshine, which is an awesome film, features in my Cosmic Horror List, link in description. What I'm trying to get at is the guy is kind of iconic in my eyes, and this film isn't, unfortunately.
Apple from the garden?
Yeah, it was delicious.
No. Mustn't do that. Forbidden fruit.
Oh, God, sorry,
I'm joking.
So it's number 5 on the list, so it must be doing something right, one of which is lampooning Christianity, which is always good for a laugh, and exposing its sort of anti-female vibe, which is something a lot of the modern feminist movement doesn't really touch on. And another certain religion also doesn't hold women in too high regard. We're not going to point any fingers at this stage, but we are going to say that Men isn't a terrible piece of folk horror, and Alex Garland has got some unbelievably good production houses and studio experience, wealth, connections. The film is stunning to look at, beautifully shot in the English countryside. It's like an upscaled Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, and I have a pub just like this in my local village, and yes, everybody does look similar.
I don't know if he saw you once.
It could have gone so much larger than it did, and the casting of that one dude as all of the characters on a villain level, when his face appears on that kid's, the photoshopping is not strong, and I kind of lost my commitment to what the film was trying to position me for. And that's a really serious and grueling ending, which just doesn't make sense to me. I'm not sure what the message is with that either, but I certainly understand where it's coming from at that front end with all the Apple and the Eve references. You can look it up and see that leaf pagan reference, that guy that's coming back as some sort of tree demigod / leaf zombie. I think the message against that title is you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. You've got a bloke in charge of hell and you've got a bloke in charge of heaven. Not the greatest position to be in if you're a woman. Amber Midthunder, a name I'll forever remember because I convinced myself that Aubrey Plaza played this role. Even the entire way through the film, I was like, Jesus, Aubrey, you're in shape. And she was like running around like someone in their mid-20s. I was also given a speech as well about forced gender swaps in Hollywood. So getting the name wrong of the main female actress in the subject matter I'm supposed to be talking about was a mistake I very much doubt I'll live down. Let's talk about Predator 2. Why have we got to do that? Because this is nestled up nicely behind it in the top 3 Predator films as far as I'm concerned. I don't hold any of the modern ones in high regard, and I really love 1 just as every other decent film critic should. But 2 is a real anomaly. It's a real strange one. It had 1 foot in the crap camp for a while with me. But when you look at it against what's come after, how difficult it was to come up with decent sequels back then, and how strong a lot of sequels were back then. You look at it, Terminator 2 and Aliens. Predator 2 held its own, and when you watch it again, Bill Paxman, a lot of the effects, the fact that it takes place in that city with all that heat, Los Angeles is basically an apocalypse, so not too much fiction in there. Danny Glover looking and sounding phenomenal with some of the harshest language you've ever heard in a Hollywood film. It's a massive, massive compliment to say this is the 3rd best Predator film of all time. I like what they've done with the Predator. I like how they've slimmed him down, made him more visceral, even more badass, because he's got less technical equipment to use. He's kind of a more hands-on. The same goes for the protagonist. She is very minimal with her armory, just bows and arrows, traps, having to use her wits, her speed and intelligence pitted against the brute force and certain amount of cunning coming from the Predator's direction as well. It's good to see this franchise healthy again, and it's good to see it put in a universe that utilizes a lot of that film's initial strengths.
Now, behold.
No, it's not Demon Souls, the film. It is The Northman from Eggers, one of my favourite directors. I'll slip the word modern in there. Also moved from A24 over to a massive budget and studio and production. For this film, he has gone ham on everything. Film set, costume, casting is huge, this film, compared to his previous projects. So it was all eyes on whether this was going to sink or swim as a high production, Viking-based Scandinavian almost period drama with a lot of supernatural, scary witches and horror thrown in there for good measure. That's an area that has loads of competitors in it. You've got streaming services with umpteen similar plot lines, but this stands out because of its gritty, great historic references and really trying to keep you as immersed as possible without faltering from any outlandish storylines or stuff that just doesn't fit canon with the period it's set in.
I want to save you, Mother. I want to kill you, feel it.
I will say Nicole Kidman has gone a little bit down the Madonna path, and her people should just have a word. You don't want to be full goblin like Madonna's gone recently, and it is a little bit noticeable in this film. And the injection, some reason it seems to be a theme tonight, gym work on main character. Vikings did not have access, A, to roids, or B, any of the equipment that give you an 8-pack. That one removed me a little bit. Being 100% natty in the 11th century, I'm pretty sure was a thing.
I have the cunning to break their minds.
We see Eggers recast some of his favourites in this, and the breathtaking scenery just doesn't get old. The film is shot so well. You've got to watch it 4K. It's very wide shots, and he really takes advantage of a lot of the landscapes. Some of it's shot on location, freezing conditions, but really worth it for such an immersive piece of filmmaking. Is it his best work? Not for me. Does it show that he can hold his own with a big budget? Yes. So more to come, hopefully.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
Okay, Barbarian made it to number 3. This was a great and pleasant surprise. We are back in lotion in the basket territory. This one has got a real scary angle. First ever horror film I've seen or heard of that has lactation issues.
Why don't you come inside and we'll call these idiots?
Justin Long appears in this film. I haven't seen him in anything decent since Tusk, I don't think, and he turns up like midway, and it takes a very different direction, not on a plot level but just on who you're following as main characters. It is quite choppy and changey. They do put in some classic hostage tropes, but it's very gritty, very dirty and quite frightening. Keeping away from as much CGI as possible really has paid off with it, and watching it a few times makes you realise that the practicals are kind of everywhere and they haven't had to use as much computer intervention as you would think. That shows a lot of effort from an effects perspective, and I've got a lot more time for films that bother with detailed and fiddly practicals against just clicking a mouse for a few days and doing it all in post. This one has got some beautiful sets for a hostage horror, and the protagonist is great to follow into this horrible world. And of course the thing that's down there, don't want to touch on too many spoilers because I think a lot of you may not have seen this, is very well versed with some genuinely spooky backstory. Why was it potentially the third best film I've seen this year? Well, it goes head to head against a lot of other films in its genre, stuff like Misery, or even material that we've seen before, Tusk, and at the start of the video we had The Black Phone. It beats them all on just about every level. All those noises, all that cranking and clicking just on that one pan down, that's what the whole thing is like. The detail in it is second by second. Rewatching Mad God is totally recommended, and it is my number 2. It's a crazy thing because you might know I'm a gamer, and you might not know that I cover video games and their patches and their performance to quite a lot of detail. So I'm very much used to trying to spot where lights land in, whether the ray tracing's working, whether what you're looking at is genuinely looking real. So when you look at stop motion, my brain does this like gorgeous loop where it's like the light's real, everything's real, it's totally real, it's fine, and I don't question the image because it is there. Bringing it back over to the CGI side, CGI's got so good that trying to spot differences against real-time stop motion is getting more and more tough. Not so hard on video games, but very difficult on films sometimes. So it's just a gorgeous pleasure to be able to watch something that's potentially 30 years old and just allow my brain to soak up all of this fantastic art.
Mrs. Wang.
Mrs. Wang, are you with us?
I am paying attention.
Everything Everywhere All at Once was the best film that I saw last year. I personally feel that Jamie Lee Curtis's character should get her own film, and they should just develop that because she just grabbed that role, no pun intended, with both hands. So good. Everything made me smile, but something cropped up in it that I hadn't had before in the cinema. Nearly embarrassed myself with tears. It co-stars Keko Huang, and if you don't know who that is, it will become apparent towards the end of the video. He hasn't worked in 20 years, and his introduction on a martial arts level with this film is second to none.
I'm here because we need your help.
Very busy today, no time to help you.
When I first saw Michelle in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and some of the moves and experience they showed as martial artists on that film was groundbreaking for me. I hadn't realised how much budget could go into an awesome, modern but still classic martial arts film, and the wire work is just mind-blowing how dangerous and awesome it looks on camera. It bleeds into this film. Some of its tributes and homages and love letters are everywhere. It's just so hectic. It kind of comes in 3 massive chunks, and the third one, your eyes are bleeding. The idea that it's dealing with this multiverse concept, easily the best multiverse film to come out in 2022, by the way, is so clever. It talks about parallel universes and how we're just traveling through them, swapping lanes even.
The universe
Speaks of senseless things.
is so much bigger.
It also plays with the idea of inanimate sentient. That's what these stick-on eyes are all about, is that anything could technically be conscious and sentient because we're all made of everything else, so it's what goes around comes around on a molecular level.
Remember our mission.
But for me, it was kind of the humour. They tell a Ratatouille joke that at the start's a bit groany, and then they keep pushing on it, and it's like, oh god, it's funny again because they go on about it so much. And then the final fruition of the Ratatouille joke is so good that you feel like standing up and clapping.
This moment.
You've got the villain from Big Trouble in Little China as the granddad, and the subject matter and speed of the film as it flashes past you totally makes it an experience like nothing else you've had for a long time. I have been Couch Cooper, and this video will get demonetized. If you want to see more film content, please don't hesitate to put that in the comments and leave me a like. I will get back to the split screen and Couch Co-op love content pretty damn soon. I'll see you down there.